even for aliveness, you can't choose aliveness and not feel also the frozenness or the robotic or the stuck kind of energy. You always have to explore both spectrums to really somatically embody, explore, know it truly for yourself. And what we always try to avoid that part, and then we never get to experience the other.
Hello, Sacred Travel Seekers. Welcome back to another episode. I am thrilled to have a very special guest from the Mediterranean island with me today, Eos Koch. And it's been a while that we have been working to come together and record this episode. So I'm happy it's happening. Eos is a Soma soul business coach and mentor dedicated to empowering soulful women entrepreneurs to align their businesses with their deepest values and unique energy blueprint. Welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to dive into and exploring Menorca and the medicine of Menorca and beyond together.
I love it. And, it's so funny because when we just had a little conversation before pressing record, we actually found out that you don't come so far from where I live right now. And and then you chose Menorca, so this tiny island in the Mediterranean, as a home. So one of the first questions for you is, what do you feel is really that sacred site medicine that Menorca has offered you?
Yes, it's definitely the water, because the water and nature, because the island is quite tiny. You get from one part of the island to the other in about 30 minutes with the car. And then the most beautiful thing about Menorca is probably it's called Cami de Cavall. And it's a little path that goes around all the island. And I think it's 186 or 7 or something like that kilometers long. So there is really beautiful views, the little, you see the beaches. You have so many places where you don't have any other people. And in many places like La Costa del Sol in Spain, you do have a lot of people coming from the mainland. And here it's distributed so well because the island is so small. And even though people go to the beaches and to the coast, there is never that same overflow. Or especially in the winter. I actually love winter here, maybe even more than summer.
Yeah.
Maybe. It never gets really cold. It's kind of like a gentle. Menorca to me is gentle and also strong. Like she has both. Like there is a gentleness, but there is also a quite strong boundaries. That's what I feel energetically from her. Yes.
Okay, interesting. So it's kind of like, the simple things in life, the rawness, but also really reconnecting with intention. So I'd be curious to hear how that actually translates into your life and also for the soulful business that you curated.
Mm-hmm. I think even just comparing it with other islands, we don't have a shopping center here, for example. It's something that people are like, how can you live without that? Already in Mallorca, the bigger sister island or the bigger island, you do have shopping centers. It's quite similar than the mainland in Spain. But here it's quite tiny and you don't have malls or things like that. It's really just always small everything. And we had a lot of challenge with this when we renovated our house because it's a lot more difficult to bring in material from outside and ship or source things online. And the shipping, especially for bigger things, can be quite expensive. So it has its challenges, but overall, I really enjoy that simplicity. And I think that simplicity is really what came into my life as well. We downsized, we moved from first we upsized our life, and then when we moved actually from Switzerland to Ibiza first. We had 1 year in Ibiza before we moved over to Menorca. We had still the same size house than we had in Switzerland. And then when we moved to Menorca, we just felt like we don't need all this space. We didn't have a lot of things anymore because we gave away a lot of things when we moved. And it was just an empty apartment. And we had too many rooms.
Wow.
It felt so good because we changed from kind of like a consumer energy towards a more experience. Like, how can we experience and live and be together? Like, I have 2 daughters. And we just had suddenly so much more time together because we had to only clean 1 toilet and not 3 like before. And I clean our, like, we live now in 3, before in 4. Like, my bigger daughter moved back to Switzerland last year, but we live in 57 square meters, which is tiny.
Wow, that is truly not a lot. Yeah.
Tiny. But we have a beautiful garden around. It's about 500 square meters of garden. And we have everything we need. And I clean the whole house in 20 minutes.
It has its advantages.
It's just easy to also not bring in unnecessary things because I'm someone that likes stuff. I have to be honest. I like beautiful things. I like beauty. And life just fills up. If you have a bigger closet, you just will have more. If you have to be more intentional and just have the beautiful clothes you really love, you open the closet and it's just only beautiful pieces. So you learn to be more intentional with less space. And at the moment, I wouldn't want to upsize again. I feel just and I feel that same energy from the island that is tiny to the life that is tiny. It's a little bit towards minimalism, right? And I feel it's the simplicity that also came into my business. How can I make this more simple and not just try to grow the business exponentially to whatever, but just making it work to my lifestyle? I always like to look at business as like, we want to build a life and then we want to have a business, and the business is really like our purpose and our gift and what we are good at. And then we want to bring the two together like a figure 8, like the lying figure 8, the infinite, right? And the life really inspires us so much and gives us so much experience and richness that experience and richness grows and flows into our business. And out of that own experience is how we create our work. And fulfilling that and sharing and being of service creates energy value to energy value, and we make money from that. And that creates again like the money to create that lifestyle. So we want to create that equilibrium, that balance where life and business just flow beautifully together. And that was always my passion moving here. Like when we moved here 7 years ago, I already had my online business. And it was part of what allowed us to do this journey, right?
It really sounds, like it's intentional, creating space for what is truly important and the things that are truly important. And also it's a complete, like what I'm hearing you say is it's a complete shift and mindset of what abundance truly is.
Yes. Like it's truly what you mentioned. I feel like, yes, that's all what it is about. Like abundance is not just always more and more. And I think that's really something we have in this culture, that abundance is a bigger house, more clothes, more this. And it's actually a feeling, abundance. It's actually a feeling. And if we are able to live in that feeling, the abundance shows up in our life as well. And the amount of abundance we need to sustain that is, again, that figure 8. We can go back to that, right? It creates itself.
I love that because I also work a lot with like sacred geometry in my business. So I love how you bring in the, yeah, the figure eight. I work a lot with that too. So it does resonate. What could be something, or maybe if we just take that example for someone who is like fairly new to this, what would you recommend as a little practice how they can connect with this energy and that feeling inside that you just mentioned?
Mm-hmm. For me, like especially for abundance, I think it's like the smaller things and just somatically experiencing, like on a somatic level, what color would abundance be for me?
Oh, I love
What color would it be, or what place would abundance be for me? Like for me, it's always the sea, the ocean, right? But it's also flowers. What like what kind of things? Like for me, it's always crystals as well. Crystals for me are like pure abundance.
that.
These are anchors. Or how does it smell? How does abundance smell? For me, it's a lot of orange blossom. I feel like
Mm.
that orange blossom is, and just connecting to these parts and then starting to consciously nurture them.
Yeah.
Like that same intentionality that I mentioned before is kind of like, okay, we just have that one crystal that anchors that energy of abundance for us. And for some, it's abundance. Like at the moment, abundance for me is not as important right now because I feel like I did my work with it. I grew. And at the moment, I'm like, oh, aliveness is really important to feel alive, to be alive.
Mm.
I'm working with right now. So it's the same concept where I go back to, okay, what feels alive? What
Yeah.
energy? Oh, it's this song. How can I put on this song every morning to remember to be alive, right?
Yeah.
I feel especially now we have so much ChatGPT and robots, and it's such a pressure that we are in. And I can feel that edge of where do we like switch into not being alive as well, and we just go there to the ChatGPT and we ask something and we just robotically follow it, right? So coming back to that aliveness to me is what counteracts that pressure that feels really uncomfortable to me. To where are we humans going if we lose that connection to our soul, to our aliveness?
It's beautiful. And, I'm just like, while you were speaking, I'm thinking, I actually don't know how much you perceive the seasons on the island, but would it also be like something that ties in the different themes that come up, like that you see or feel with the seasons? Because we are also part of nature, right? And part of the surrounding that we live in.
Yes, yes. First, sharing the seasons here. I feel the seasons itself, like of the temperature, it's not such a big stretch like in Germany or like in other places or where I grew up close to the Lake of Constance, where in Switzerland. But the seasons are still quite present here. Not so much in nature in that way. A little bit with the temperature, like if a cold day in winter would be about 8 degrees.
Okay,
And
that's
when you,
below 10 Celsius, so that
yes,
it's considered cold. Yeah, you could say it's cold.
a really cold day for us here. Like we are with like people have like all they are all bundled up when you see them, and it doesn't rain so much. Always, we have 300 days of sun. They say here, so that's
Wow.
a year. So that's really
Amazing.
not a lot of rain, but the rain is mostly from autumn to winter. It doesn't rain in summer, like the summer months there. It nearly never rains. And if it rains, it's like 2 hour window in a day or something. Have like rainy days for a week or something. I never saw that here. Like, so do you have a lot of sun all year long, but you do have more sun in summer and more heat. And I think that the most perception, what was for me towards the season, is really the tourists coming and going. We, in this small place where we live, it's quite a tourist place. We are about 1,000 people living here. And then I think in summer we are about 5,000.
Oh,
And you
wow.
feel
Oh, you will feel that for sure. Yeah.
every, like, we have 3, 4 houses around here that are just empty in winter. And then we have 2 neighbors over here as well. In winter, like, the whole energy of the island changes. Also, like, the supermarket is only open in summer here, in this town where we live. The hotels
Oh,
are closed.
interesting.
The hotels are closed. There is no, maybe there is like 2 restaurants, and they only open like Friday and Saturday in winter. And in summer, you have about 30, 40 restaurants open, and we have a lot of hotels also. So most places are like this, besides the bigger 2 cities like Mahon and Cittadella. So the seasons, you do feel them about the people coming and going, and it feels like an extroverted
Mm.
place and then an introverted place and an extroverted place and an introverted place. So it's energetically, it feels good to have people coming in. It feels sometimes a little bit overwhelming, especially after the winter. But because there is like new energy coming in, new ideas. You can feel that summer energy through that. And then in the winter, it also, like, I like the hibernation where it feels like, oh, you just only see like really few people. A lot of times when I do my walk in winter, I only see cats. No people at all.
Oh, wow.
And then, like, I see people everywhere.
Yeah. But it's interesting that you mention it because I had an experience, I mean, totally different side of the world, but still it was a small island that we went in the Pacific last fall. And, I really could feel how being on such a remote and small island, I mean, not that Menorca is so remote, but I feel there is like similar threads. It's as if everything is amplified. So as you say, like people come in and you're like, oh my God, so what's happening? And then everything closes down, and there might maybe even some feelings of like loneliness come up or so. But it's really like you are part of this heartbeat, of this pulse of what's happening, and you're like you're in it fully. Whatever happens to you as well. And so it's places where I feel that the personal and the collective is even more interwoven.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And that's really my experience because we first moved to Ibiza, right? And
Mm-hmm.
energetically, it's beautiful, but it's totally different. To
Mm-hmm.
felt when we moved, like, I loved it, and the idea of moving there was so beautiful. Then we moved there, and I felt like I was on a rubber band that is always stretched.
Mm.
Like my nervous system felt like I couldn't calm down. I couldn't breathe. It was really like she taught me a lot in that 1 year we were there, but it was hard. The energy, like what you mentioned, is amplified similarly. Like the 2 islands are similar size, right? Ibiza has more population, but from the square meters, they are quite similar. And Ibiza to me felt not sustainable for energy
Ah,
energy wise. But
for
also if
for yourself. Yeah, okay.
my system for us as a
Mhm.
family, but also if
Mhm.
you look at it a little deeper, like for example, here in Menorca, there are like our cows, and there are like they make cheese, and they grow a lot of like vegetables and things. And Ibiza has that part. They do it, but they always do it a little bit for the hip part because it's like
Mm.
what is in right now.
Mhm.
They don't have cows, for example. They drink the milk. Like we from Menorca, we deliver milk to Mallorca and Ibiza, for example.
Oh, okay.
So there is actually more agriculture here. There is more like sustainability, and people intentionally keep small. Like they don't try.
Mhm.
You can't build a big disco like you could in Ibiza, right?
Mm.
No big
Mm-hmm.
in that way. And part is also because the whole island is UNESCO-protected. I don't know if you know that, but
Oh,
the
I didn't know that. The whole island.
whole
Oh,
island
wow.
has a UNESCO protection. So it's special. Like we have so many different things, or like birds that are only here anymore. We have different things of that, but it makes it difficult to build. It makes it difficult. We waited 2 years for the permit for our swimming pool in the
For the swimming pool. I thought you were going to say for the house. I was like, oh,
No,
okay.
it's the swimming pool.
Wow.
We
Okay. And you
asked for the
think that
permit, and it's just really slow, and there are like a lot of hurdles to go through, even just for small things and easy things, which is good in one part because there are no big hotels close to the coast, right? Ibiza and Mallorca have a lot more of that. But there's less development. There are less beaches that are like more virgin and untouched. But then for yourself, sometimes it's hard or more complicated, right?
yeah.
Even the roads, there is one main road from the island, and then there are small roads from that main road to the top and to the bottom. And sometimes it takes you like 40 minutes for really close places to move from one close place to the other because you have to go all around, and the streets are really small because they also don't get a lot of permits to build bigger streets and to build bigger infrastructure. Everything has to go to the UNESCO and be approved from there, and takes a lot longer.
Oh, okay. Of course. Yeah, that's not things that you think of when you're not in it. So, okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and it has its pro and its cons, obviously, right?
You know, it's what comes to me while you're speaking, especially also about that complete, like, it's not only a mindset shift, it's a complete, like, yeah, reset of life in a way. And I'm curious, do you feel that like it only works while you are in the bubble and while you're part of it, or does it also work to still be able to go out, if that makes, like, if that question even makes sense? Do you know
Also,
what I mean?
I try. You mean that if you can tap into the energy of Menorca in that way and take that with you? Or
No, it's more like I feel now that you've built a living and with you're there with your whole family and you like recalibrated everything, right? From like sizing down the physical things in life. And so coming into this radical alignment with everything. And sometimes what I'm sensing or seeing is that it's working kind of like while you stay in that bubble. But do you also feel that what you've built and what Menorca is supporting like also allows you to go in and out of the bubble as you please?
the best example is probably my daughter. She is 21. Like I have two daughters, a 21-year-old and a 16-year-old. And my daughter, who is 21, moved back to Switzerland
Okay.
last, so 6 months ago, a little more, because it felt too tight and too small for her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because she just never felt like for her that it was the right place. So she was called back, and she is living close to my mother and to my two sisters in Switzerland now. So for her, recalibrating back was easy in that way. Like, so she stepped really out of the bubble, but I also feel there is a different life that she creates and she craves. Like for her, it was a problem that there is no Zara that she just can go in and she has to
Yeah.
order line and try them on and ship them back if they don't fit. And for my other daughter who is 16, that's no problem at all. She doesn't like shopping anyway. So it's really individual in that way. For me, I feel I can go out, and what I take if I go to another place, it's like a something I built in myself. It's
Mm.
about my identity and my character. I wouldn't choose to go to live back. Like we lived for 5 years in Turin in Italy, which is a really big city. Like I wouldn't choose to go back to a place like that.
Yeah.
Like that place taught me a lot. It taught me what I had to learn then, but it wouldn't be my choice now to live in a place like that, because I think it would be more difficult to have that same energy, that same intentionality, that same simplicity that I have here, because here it is supported from the surroundings, but I still think you can create, or you can nourish that energy even from another place.
Mm. And it's beautiful how you say, that there is different environments for different people, and that there also at a certain point, like your daughter has to be that discernment of like, is this for me? Like, do I want this, or do I crave something else? So from also like bringing in your somatic point of view, once again, for anybody who is listening or watching this, how do we know that we thrive in a place?
Hmm. We feel like, for me, it's really the expansion in the body. Like it's, if we feel open, even just imagining, like me imagining being still here in 10 years, it feels like open. It opens something in my body. Me imagining going back to Switzerland, like I feel like closing. It feels like uncomfortable. It feels like, oh my God, that's tight. Right? And to my daughter, it felt the contrary. For her, it felt tight to imagine being still here in 10 years and then imagining going back to Switzerland. Like, woo, the
Yeah.
air opens. And that's interesting because I have this story actually. Before we moved, we were living in the French part of Switzerland before we moved to Ibiza. And we were at the point where we had the money ready to get a mortgage and buy a house there. So we were renting in the beginning, and then we were like, okay, next step would be like buying there. And we started looking at houses. And I went to the first house, and my whole energy and my whole body just like
Oh, wow.
contracted so closely. And then we had the second house, and I saw these white picket fences. And I'm like, I can't live here. I can't. And that's actually when we started, oh, maybe it's not our place. And that's actually when we just started looking at Google Map. Where do we go? And
Really?
that's how the whole journey
I
started.
love it.
Where do we go? I never was in Ibiza before, right? And then we felt like, oh, this is too far, like Thailand, and it's just a different environment. We had a big Newfoundland dog, so it was not so easy. We didn't want to go like overseas or too far. We looked at places in Italy, they didn't feel quite right. And then we just booked like a week, and we visited Mallorca and Ibiza. And after that week, we were like, okay, let's move to Ibiza. And that's what we did.
That's funny. And then from there, next step was
Yeah.
even tinier.
Yes. And Ibiza then like felt expensive in my imagination. Then being there, it started to,
Mm.
right? And it was really a difficult year for me because I could feel like, oh my God, I shared all my journey. I shared it with my newsletter. I shared it on my social media. I shared it with all the people. And like, oh my God, and what do I do now? Yeah, like how does this work? Because I was so excited about this, and now I'm here,
Yeah.
and it sucks. And now
Yeah.
I'm here. My body just says, "No, it's not your place."
Mm.
Also, the experiences I had there were unfortunately not what I imagined it to be. There was a
Yeah.
lot of illusion, a lot of a lot of delusion. I call it that. There's a lot of vampire energy in Ibiza itself.
Okay. Well, first, let me ask, how did you move through that, fear of, I guess it's kind of a fear of failure that we as humans have, right? So you're like, oh, I'm gonna live in Ibiza and it's gonna be wonderful. And then all of a sudden it's like, da 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 dum. So what do you do? Like, how did you move through that?
Yes, yes. It was that fear of it was humbling. And I think, like every change, we have to really allow all the feelings to be felt. There we go back to the somatic and to the aliveness. I think that's often a part why we are not alive, because we don't want to feel these feelings. So we cut ourselves off, and then we don't get the whole spectrum of all the feelings. So how I moved through was really with honesty. Kind of like first being honest to myself, and then being honest to the world outside, and then just knowing that it wouldn't be worth it to fake it, right?
So like coming back to that alignment piece that we said earlier. Yeah.
Yes, it wouldn't be worth faking that. And still, like, I'm grateful for that year. I'm grateful for all the things. Ibiza is so beautiful, especially the nature, and there's so much beauty there as well.
Okay, moving on to the vampires. Thank you for sharing your personal touch, because I feel it's very important. Also, how sometimes the land can hold us through these processes. And it's so funny. I find that you're bringing this up because it's something that I have also experienced, especially with places where that are supposedly kind of like hip, or where like all of a sudden everybody is being drawn to on their spiritual journey. And I'm not saying this from a place of judgment, but I also feel that sometimes these places get super crowded, and there is a lot of people who are coming more from the seeking consumption side instead of like really having a sacred reciprocative relationship or intention with the land.
Yes.
So I'd be curious to hear your experience with that.
Yes. I actually totally agree with that. Like Tulum or Ibiza or Bali,
Even Glastonbury, or I just returned
they
from,
have a quite
yeah.
similar energy. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And though they are beautiful, they have that energy siphoning. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how it really like works, that vampire energy. I probably feel it's really adults also taking advantage of that, like
Yeah.
really not being in a really balanced relationship with that power of energy, right? Like these powerful places, they do have so much to give ourselves, but if we go there to extract them, what we
Yeah.
do in space as humans, right? All the beautiful places, the nature, we don't have really a natural kind of balanced relationship with nature in many ways. And many have, many like, but in general, I feel we are really missing something there to give back to nature and to give back and to get. We just always want to get from her, right? And if you're someone that is probably more balanced in like offering to the earth and taking from the earth, then you probably are more on the spectrum where you get like vampired out from other people taking advantage, just because energy always levels itself out. So if
Yeah.
you're the one giving the blessings to the earth, there are other people that are just taking advantage of that, right? If you're not in a protected place. And the more these energies are like out in the world, I had so many experiences. I do have that sometimes here in Menorca as well, but in Ibiza, there were so many experiences where I was sitting at the beach, and then there were like people coming, and they came there just for 2 minutes, taking their selfies, and they were gone. And I was there like maybe 1 hour, 2 hours meditating, and I had 5, 7 different people come and go, just each for 2, 3 minutes. Like, you're just collecting your selfies here. Like, really? This still happens here sometimes in Menorca, but in Ibiza, it was just always everywhere. And I think that's what I interpret, like that's a small interpretation of that vampire energy. Not serving the island, it's not serving themselves. Like, I think it's the worst for themselves because they go there just to show on Instagram and Facebook that they were at this beach and at that beach and at this club and that. And I don't know, that's just not sustainable, and it's just not fulfilling in the long run. And if you're close to that, it just wears into you as well, and it creates tension.
I fully agree. And, that was one of the main intentions of like creating this podcast, is that how can we come through a different lensing of like not just traveling, but like in general, like reconnecting with nature through a more conscious, energetic perspective. And again, I feel that I've done these things too, right? So totally guilty of it. But I feel like the more we can like overcome or like really dig into these unconscious bias of ourselves and like rise to new levels, it's also the way of how we come back into communion and coherence. Like again, the figure eight, like with the earth, I feel for this new way of being in a way.
Yes. Yeah. And if you have that energy kind of like in Ibiza, it's just accepted. That's the baseline of energy, right? It's so
Okay.
easy to go there and do that, right? And that's this kind of people, and this kind of people live. And then in Menorca, that's something strange. Like people look strange at you if you do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do live in an
Yeah.
other frequency, right?
Yeah.
So the choice of place you go and the choice of how you behave, it makes a lot. Like I feel energy is it's so much more than just a place, right? It's really an energy.
Mhm.
Places are really holding different frequencies and different energies.
Yeah. I love that. I will have in the coming episodes, I will have an episode on Ibiza, so I will ask her about that. It's cool how we're weaving this together. Now, you've also personally gone through a big shift recently, like including losing a lot of weight. So also physically, energetically, like again, coming back into more alignment with who you truly are. I'd be really curious to know how you feel that Menorca and the energy of the elements that I feel you are so, like, you're so connected. You're truly embodying this rawness and impurity. How has this supported you through this incremental transformation?
Mm, it's a really interesting question. Let me start with I lost about 30 kilos in the last year, so that's really a lot. I it was really, really a lot. And with letting that go, I think the most difficult thing was how many other things fall away in our life, because we don't just let go of our weight, physical weight, but we do let go of an identity we hold.
Yeah.
And that shift, that creates a ripple effect in the life, in your business, in everything, in your emotions. And I'm still in that ripple effect. I'm not yet out of there. Reflecting back how energy, how Menorca like supported this, I truly believe it's because that sustainability, right?
Mm.
Just keeping at it. Like I did really just watch every day, write down what did I eat. For me, it was a lot about feelings. What didn't I want to feel and why did I eat? Because of not wanting to feel that. And then how did I freeze myself? And now it gets back to that aliveness part where I'm working with, I mentioned before. Okay, so to not feel the feelings, I started freezing them, right? So first I eat them, and then when eating was taken away as my strategy, I started freezing them, right? So it's all about unfreezing them. And
Interesting.
it felt
Okay.
like, oh, I do have the permission to be alive if I'm like overweight. But here I can't hold that aliveness in my body, in my somatic body. And that's what I'm like in the process at right now. And I think it's that small, like moving every day, just writing down every meal, just being really aware of like the awareness is what helped me lose the weight. It was a decision and the awareness. I feel there came that point where I just felt I was fortunate I had never like yo-yo things and things. I was just happy and I even felt beautiful. It was actually in the beginning easier to feel beautiful overweight than without the weight, interestingly. And so I never had that up and down, but I came to a place where I felt like I was pre-diabetic. I had like just health problems. And it was just kind of like, oh my God, and if I get older, I really will get problems if I don't make something about this. And then from that place, it just was that sustainable every day, taking my walk, making that a priority before I even work, putting myself in front of clients, in front of my family.
Mm.
That was really the hardest part about it, like making the walk and making my health more important than people pleasing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. It feels, also like still being a little vulnerable to share that. And I can only imagine like it's been a year, and as you say, like there's a whole identity that is not only falling away, but it's kind of like shifting and transmuting, and these big questions arising of like, who am I? And so I can only imagine, when I would have something like this, or when I'm sitting with something like this, not that there's a comparison, but the place where I see myself is in nature and by the water, by the lake here. So I can, totally see you like walking through the landscape and like holding this intention, and it's big.
Yes. Yeah. It felt like Phoenix year to me, like the last year.
Yeah.
It was through that and through that identity shift that was connected, my motherhood and my older daughter. And it was
Hmm.
quite because I was quite young when my daughter was born. I was about 20 and now she's 21. So for me, being a mother was the same time frame than not being a mother, right? And it felt so unfamiliar. Like I'm still a mother, of course, but letting her go, it was really that big threshold that took me by surprise. And I don't know what was more emotional, the personal transformation of losing the weight, my daughter, or of creating that space for her. I can feel that it's the right thing for her, for me, but that doesn't mean it was easy, right?
No, not at all. And at the same time, as you say, it really feels that I feel, the more and more also like I really like harness this feminine energy we can see, and for some reason also like the dragons and snakes are coming up right now, but it's really all about this ever transformation and transfiguring of energy, and not a destruction, because it can't be destroyed, right? It's like all in motion, and it's more like how do we, as you said, like freeze it or go against it and fight it, or how do we go with the flow?
Mhm. Yes. And in the moment, it does feel like distraction, right?
Of course.
Even though it is
Because it's a
transformative.
total dismantling of who
In
you
the
are.
moment, it always like even a move like from Switzerland to Spain, it in the moment it does feel like crumbling and rebuilding, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
the more we allow ourselves to see like that that's part of the whole growth and that's part of the whole process, and the gentler we can be with ourselves in these periods, the more like change and transformation and beauty we can hold as well, right? I always say as deep we can go is as high we can go.
Yes. And that's another thing where I feel that nature, well, everything in life, but nature is such a beautiful reflection and mirror of ourselves and the processes that we go through. Because always when I'm hiking here and I see these deep lakes and the high mountains, it's exactly what you say, right? It's like as high as the mountains are, like as deep the water goes down. And it's the same with us. So the more you allow yourself to like dig deep and feel deep as well, the more you can expand.
Yeah, it actually goes also back to abundance, right? We only can feel the full abundance if we allow also the scarcity to be felt.
Oh, that was for me. That was personal. Thank you.
And I remember because I always choose a word of the year. And in the year of where we moved to Ibiza, my word was abundance.
Oh.
And what it was really the teaching of abundance. I could feel that, but it was at the same time, as much as I got all the learnings, all the codes about abundance, I got all the learnings, all the codes about scarcity.
Mm.
So even for aliveness, you can't choose aliveness and not feel also the the frozenness or the robotic or the stuck kind of energy. You always have to explore both spectrums to really somatically embody, explore, know it truly for yourself. And what we always try to avoid that part, and then we never get to experience the other.
That makes so much sense. And I guess it's not that we don't know it. It's more really of like the reminder, because it's a lot about, I feel, especially like in a facilitator role, like you teach that to your clients, but then when you go through through it yourself, you're like, not going there, not going there. But it's exactly as you say. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of resistance, a lot of not wanting that, of course not. But the resistance is really what keeps us from not experience the spectrum, neither to the bottom, neither to the. But if we resist the bottom, we don't explore the heights.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we've talked a lot about you. I also know that you do beautiful retreats on Menorca. So let's talk a little bit about client transformation. Like, what is it that the women that you work with or that you and the land hold? What are they moving through? What can they experience when they come with you on this journey, I guess?
Yes, yes. At the heart of my business, there is design, branding, and this abundance codes, right? And I feel it's always about creating the best version of ourselves. It's all my work, even building a business, it always goes back to that, to creating an intentional version of yourself, of your day, of how you show up, of who you want to be and how you want to feel, how to hold yourself, and that self leadership. So in the retreat itself, it's called the Golden Soul Essence Retreat. It is all about these abundance codes and on how can we bring our business, or how can we build or grow the business towards a level where we truly have a life, where we do the things we love. Because it's so easy to just create another job, to just create
Yeah,
another
yeah.
responsibility that we have to hold. And it's so hard to give ourselves permission to do it our way, to not follow the rules, to fully serve, because we're also afraid from we try a lot of time to safeguard our biggest gifts. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
we are afraid to fail with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's our all with this thing that we truly want to do and then we fail, then there's nothing left. That's how it
Yeah,
feels.
yeah.
What we do is try just to do like a watered down version of it. So if we fail, we didn't lose. We just lost a watered down version. The little kind of treasure is still over here. And what I want us to move into is really that full spectrum of let's risk all, let's learn to hold it all in our body, and do it at the same time also gently. Like we don't want to I don't like a lot about quantum leaping. I feel it's valid thing. But it's not for me and my energy, and it's not how I work in my business. Just because, and I think Ibiza is about that quantum leaping energy. So
Okay.
we weave back to the energy Because it's kind of like a lot of time you go to a place in your business with your money, you go to a place that is quite of outside of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then what often happens is people can't hold that outside of comfort zone
Yeah.
growth that is so exceptional, right? And what then happens, we go back even further back than we were before. So
the
growth,
yo-yo effect in business.
yes, growth to me really happens in like blowing up a balloon and expanding the comfort zone. So yes, we want to hover on the comfort zone, always at the edge, always a little bit outside, sometimes a little bit inside so we can rest. But we want to make the comfort zone bigger so the comfort zone becomes the bigger size.
The new normal. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of like the threads that weave through the retreat, through all of my work in that way. It's about how can we sustain that? How can we grow that? How can we feel safe in our body doing that? Because it doesn't feel safe. There are like so many wounds and things and beliefs and pressure, and there is so much things that doesn't make it feel safe still, especially for like a lot of spiritual and sacred work. It just, there is a lot of codes still in the earth, like the sisterhood ones, the witch ones, they like still alive, right? How can we like shift them, and how can we be part, holding, healing them for ourselves, and through that, holding, healing it for the collective?
That's beautiful. And I see that golden glow, which when you asked in the very beginning, like, what is your color of abundance? For me, it was gold. And I see that completely, like, within all that you offer. So what is a current way? I think your retreat for this year is already through, but what is a current way for a soulful entrepreneur woman to be in touch with you and work with you?
Yes. A beautiful way is to start. I have the Our Room membership, which is a place where we do practice just that in a way, that small growth, small intentional. It's a space where other women are in. And then like one-on-one work, like web design, branding, one-on-one mentoring are the things that are open all year.
Amazing. I feel very full in my heart right now. Is there anything else that you would want to share as a final piece of wisdom from you, from the island? Anything that wants to come up?
Mm-hmm. I think the most important thing is really that reminder that everything we need to know is already in here. That we don't have to go and search so much in that. It's here. And of course, yes, moving to places, it can activate different things, but every place activates. You don't have to live in a special place like Menorca or you still have all the things and all the wisdom that is needed and that can be activated. And you can tap into places like Menorca, like energetically, totally. You don't have to. And if that's like your wish to go to live to a place like this, tapping into that is really kind of like just a practice to get used to that energy, and then learning if that's really the path for you, right?
Yeah.
Reminder, everything you need to know is already inside of you.
Thank you. Thank you for this conversation. It's been really, really wonderful. So yeah, just like the island, so gentle and pure and deep at the same time. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here and to share the energy through being a channel for the energy of
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, listening, and watching to this episode. And as always, stay curious and try to escape the ordinary. Until next time.